bitches. As the Vicar of Dibley, she's the nation's favourite cleric. Welcome, please, Dawn French. Women who love chocolate and complete bitches.
Yeah.
That's a definite statement of fact, is it?
Yeah, which one do you think I am?
I think you're a chocolate lover.
I think...
Is it right that you once had it written in your contract that you must have a supply of chocolate?
Yeah, I do. It gives me energy, and it's an aphrodisiac. And,
Is it?
Absolutely, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Do you not eat chocolate, then?
No.
Well,
I
you know, big recommendation, that's all I would say. Big recommendation, yeah.
So did you, in fact, then overindulge at Christmas time?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Always try to overindulge at Christmas time. It was a bit sad for us at Christmas,
Why?
unfortunately. My little daughter, who's 7, wrote to Father Christmas. Do you know him, Father Christmas?
Yes, I do.
And she asked if she could have a guinea pig. And luckily, Jennifer, do you know her, Fatty Saunders?
Yeah, I know her.
She had, her guinea pig had a little baby, which was about this big. And she gave the guinea pig to my daughter for Christmas, via Father Christmas, obviously. And it arrived, and a neighbour of mine looked after it for about a week before it came out to our house. We collected it on Christmas Eve. We gave it to my daughter on Christmas Day, and she loved it so much. She completely treasured it, completely precious little fairy thing. And she went to bed on Christmas night after having cuddled it for about 10 hours. And quite a sweaty, clammy guinea pig by this time. And because it was a very young, little baby thing, we didn't want to leave it outside, so we brought it in, put it in a little tiny night hutch in Lenny's office. And about half an hour after it had gone into the little night hutch, I was chopping up an apple, because I do eat apples as well as chocolate. And I gave Lenny a piece of the apple and said, oh, take this in for the guinea pig and you'll love this. So he went into his office and then he came out and said, oh dear, big problem. Front of the hutch is open, no guinea pig. And then I looked at the back door and our dog, who's an Airedale Terrier, came in with mud all round her face. And I think she'd just taken it in one gulp, frankly. Yeah. So, animal husbandry, not a big strength in our house. I felt terrible about it, and I didn't know what to say to my daughter. And she was very angry with the dog. Obviously, I wanted to punch the dog, which wasn't a good idea. But she was shaking and crying on Boxing Day morning when we told her what had happened. And she was that kind of uncontrolled crying. And I said, well, look, if there's a pet shop open today, we'll get you one. And she went, okay. And I'm not kidding you, there was a pet shop open on Boxing Day. We went and got another one.
The transient sorrow of children.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Fickle, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you part of this BBC, this huge BBC campaign to get the nation fit and lose weight and all that sort of stuff, which started this week?
What do you think?
No. No.
Listen, I'm all for people being fit. I'm all for that. You know, you should be fit for your particular life, I think. I mean, although it may come as somewhat of a shock to you, Parky, I am not a track athlete. I am nearly a ballerina, but I'm not a track athlete. So I feel like I'm fit enough for my life. There's nothing that I want to do physically that I can't do, if you know what I mean. And I feel like I'm completely fit for what I want to do, and I think anybody should be as fit as they want to be.
Yeah, but you explode also, too, I mean, several myths, haven't you, over the years about large people, too. I mean, the sort of myth that they're always happy. I mean, that's a myth, isn't it?
Well, I'm completely grumpy.
You're grumpy. Yeah. I used to have the one-for-one, whenever you saw a large girl at a dance, my father said they make marvellous dancers. You know, because nobody will dance with them.
Well, oh, because nobody will dance
well,
with them.
That was right when I was a kid.
Oh, God, I know. I don't believe in that at all. I mean, I never had any trouble getting any dance partners or any other kind of partners, frankly.
Well, you see, the thing about you that's interesting is that another myth about large people is that you are actually supposed to have low self-esteem. And in fact, you haven't, and you never have had, have you? I mean, what was it that gave you that confidence?
I've tried to wonder what it is that gave me the confidence from early on, and I can only put it down to my dad. Simple as that, really. I mean, I remember there was a night when I was going to go out to a disco, and I was really ready to do sex with anybody who wanted to ask. And I had some hot pants. I remember that, hot pants, purple suede hot pants that I thought would look great in. Anyway, my father called me into his office and sat me down, and I thought, oh, I'm going to get the lecture. And instead of giving me a lecture about what time to be home or any of that, he just said to me, you are the most precious thing in our lives, and you are beautiful, and you are worthy of anybody who shows you any attention. And you shouldn't feel grateful for the scraps that any other girls leave behind. You should have the best. And I just was huge, even bigger chested than I am. And I just went out, and in fact, no boy came within 10. I wouldn't allow any of them, because they were beneath me, to come anywhere near me that night. And he just gave me a bit of self-esteem, I suppose.
Yes,
He just reinforced something
Yes.
that I think I already felt. And I think a lot of big women would feel if they were allowed to, if they weren't constantly shown images of anorexic women as something to aspire to.
Now, what about this chap you married, Lenny? I mean, it seems to me that there's problems having one comedian in a family.
Yes.
I mean, two comedians in a family. It must be impossible. I mean,
Oh, it's hilarious! Oh, we never stop giggling. Oh, all the livelong day we're laughing. Actually, it's nice to come out, really, and come to something serious like this, you know. Start and give my chuckle muscles a bit of a rest, you know. Well, I mean, you've got a couple of journalists in your house, so you're asking each other questions all day long.
I take your point.
You see, the thing is, I've never been married to anyone else, so I don't know what anybody else's marriage is like. I mean, actually, we're both quite grumpy, I think. In fact, we're both very grumpy. Yeah.
So
it's all complete facade.
Not much fun in your house,
no, it's dreadful, it's dreadful. I wouldn't bring up children in it at all. Certainly not guinea pigs.
What about the other business, the other partnership too, the long-term partnership in your life with the aforesaid Jennifer Saunders?
Yeah.
See, the other strange thing about you is that I think is that the people who make people laugh, comedians, I think it's a vocation. I think they can't help it. It's almost like being in the priesthood.
Yeah.
You know, they're drawn towards it. In your case, of course, you were not, were you? I mean, you're a teacher.
Yeah.
And you arrived by accident
Yes.
at being in comedy.
Still not sure we should be there, actually.
Well,
we'll get rumbled one of these days.
And I suppose the person who actually led you into it was the aforesaid Jennifer Saunders.
Yeah, but you see, it was, neither of us intended to do any acting, or certainly not to do any comedy. It wasn't even a sort of proper job, really. I didn't think of that as a job prospect at all. But we went to college together, and we shared a flat together, and we made each other laugh a lot in the flat. And then a lot of the actors that we were at college with, we were on the teaching course, but a lot of the actors used to show off at the end-of-term cabaret. And we thought, well, they're just showing off. We could do showing off quite well. So we had a go at it then for the crack, really, just to amuse ourselves. And then it became, a real opportunity, because there was a thing called the comic strip, and they were looking for girls to be part of it. And they only wanted women because they didn't have any.
The other thing, too, about the partnership, a comedy partnership, is that it's observable, certainly, and the people I've known, the men who do sort of comedy duos, that actually there's quite a bit of friction there, that often they don't like each other. And often the longer that the relationship lasts, the less they like each other. Is that been a problem with you and Jennifer?
Because people don't talk very much about the relationships they have in double acts, I don't know how much of that is true, but I suspect you're right. I know the double acts you're talking about, and I know that they don't get on, and they have separate dressing rooms, and they don't share their social lives. But Jennifer and I were friends, first and foremost. So going into a kind of partnership was an organic thing. It was just part of our friendship, an extension of it. And although we've had spats, like anybody would, I mean, it's been 20 years that we've been working together. Although we've had the odd sort of marriage spat, we actually have never fallen out. And I think we've got a big respect for each other and a proper grown-up female sort of love for each other. Going
back to where we started this about the self-esteem, would I be right in saying that the only time that you doubted your self-esteem or was made to feel, in a sense, not ashamed of being big, but sad about it, was when you went to America, to Hollywood?
Yeah, that was very interesting. Lenny actually was making a film there, and he was going to be gone for about 6 months, and I had no real desire to go. But he said to me, I need my chum with me. You need to be there to help me with this. This is, we're going to be apart for too long. And so I thought, okay, I'll go. So I went as the wife, which was an odd thing. And he was what they were paying for, so he was who they talked to, and we used to go out for dinners with all these producers, and nobody would talk to me, which was very odd. I thought, well, I'm quite gregarious. I'm quite happy to chat away about whatever I do. And people completely ignored me, or did that kind of smiling that don't really mean anything, and then turn the other way like that. It was so rude, and I had a hard time with it. And a friend of mine who's a psychotherapist over there said to me, just as a sociological experiment, tell them what you do. Tell them about your status in England. I said, no, that's so un-British to do that, to kind of blow your own trumpet like that. And indeed, people had said to me, what do you do? And, you know, when you're British, you go, oh, you don't say, well, I've got this and I've got my own show, and, you know, you don't do that. But Americans do that. And they think that you're a failure. You can perceive yourself as a failure if you don't trumpet yourself right there and then, you know. So, in fact, I said to her, I can't do that. That's too rude to do that. And then I got very drunk one night when they were all busy chatting to Len and nobody was talking to me once again. And I got very drunk, and the chap next to me asked me what I did. And so I told him. Well, by the next day, they were sending limousines for me to go to meetings with people who don't really know if they want to meet you. They've just heard about you. So, and then they're fighting. Each studio's fighting with the limousine to, you know, send for you. Anyway, I went to a meeting with this man who had to go through 4 sets of secretaries to get to this chap. And I walked into the room and I thought, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. This is sort of meet and greet, kind of one of those awful, embarrassing meetings. And he gave me a look like I've never had before. I suppose because people in this country have seen me grow up on the telly, and nobody assumes that I need anyone to pity me at all, or to feel sorry for me, or to assume that I have made a big mistake about my appearance. And he looked at me in this way that I suppose disabled people must get this look very often, and I understand how disarming it is, where he just sort of looked at me like this, went, like that. And it was so odd what it did to me. I was very angry that he would look at me like that, and I realised he'd just written me off immediately, as if, well, I wanted to meet you, but oh dear, you don't. What could we do with you here? You obviously don't. Oh dear, you don't take care of yourself, do you? You know, it was that all this stuff said in one little look, and it just disarmed me completely, and I turned into sort of sorry, I'm fat kind of girl, you know. And I'd never done that. It was so awful to do that.
Terrible.
So that was the last chance, you know.
So bang goes Hollywood career.
Well, you know, they're not going to ask. They don't put anybody big in anything.
They know you're an international Emmy winner. Vicar of
well,
Dibley,
maybe, maybe now they know that, but they got Roseanne, haven't they? That's their fat quotient, actually. They don't need any more.
I'd rather have you any day of the
Parky.
week. All right, don't press to the moment. Thank you very much indeed. Don't press.
Pleasure.
Well, my next guest was aged 8. A teacher wrote she has a masterly hold over mathematical computation, which should prove profitable later on. She was right. They couldn't have imagined that gift would lead her to television, a show called Countdown, and stardom as the nation's favourite maths teacher. Today, she's so much in demand, she's best described as omnipresent. And according to the newspapers, she earns more than the rest of us put together. Ladies and gentlemen, Vorderman.
We're in the money.
Yes, thank you very much.
That's all right. That's all right.
I knew you, being a gorgeous Yorkshireman like yourself, you'd have to bring that topic up.
Is it true that if you went on strike, that television would close down?
I think not, Michael. I think there'd be many who'd cheer.
And what's it like being described, no, seriously though, as the £5 million woman there?
What's it like? It's very nice being described that way, isn't it? It's better than Fiver.
Yeah. Does it bother you though, this thing about people sort of learning about how much you're earning or speculating on how much you're earning?
Well, they speculate, don't they? I mean, it's interesting. It depends which paper you read, really, that particular morning. So,
But it doesn't bother you too much?
Nothing bothers me. Or very little bothers me, I have to say what I read.
I see.
No, because, you see, when we started on Countdown 16 years ago, we started on November the 2nd, 1982. And I was 21 years old. And I thought, so nervous about it. I thought, oh, God, do that. Had all the photos taken, and the next day the papers wrote up, they said, this programme Countdown is so awful that the programme should be taken off air immediately, and so should the entire channel. So, you know, things just get gradually better from that point on. It was so bad.
Don't you get fed up a countdown?
I love Countdown. Well, you've been on Countdown.
I know I haven't been on Countdown, but I mean, I'm 16 years
That tie should be on Countdown.
Well, there's a reason why it's time. But the suit's not, is it? It's certainly not. No. But I mean...
No, I love it, you see.
Yeah.
I mean, we have such a lovely time, and Countdown is a very, very tight-knit little production team, because the two producers were actually contestants
I know, yeah.
on in the first year of the programme. And I think Diane is the newcomer. She's only been in the office 12 years. So, and of course Richard and I have been on since the beginning.
But could you imagine, as I said in the introduction, that gift that you had for figures when you're a kid for doing maths would lead you to television?
No, I never wanted to be on television. I never wanted to be in the media. Well, in 1982, by definition, there was no Channel 4. There was ITV, BBC One, BBC Two. There was no breakfast television. There was no daytime television. There was no satellite. There were just the great stars like yourself.
Nice
and yeah, well, it's true. There was Parky, Brucey, and so on. But it was like television was something that other people did, and I thought that I wanted to go into the computer industry, which was still very much in its infancy in those days. But I knew that I sort of wanted to do something in communication as well, but I never ever dreamed about television. And it was my mum, in fact, who spotted something in the Yorkshire Evening Post, because we were living in Leeds, lovely Leeds, and said, you should apply for that, you'd be good at sums. And I said, no, I know I'm good at sums, but don't be ridiculous, mother. And she said, well, I'm going to write a letter. I said, don't be daft. So she wrote this letter, she said, now you sign it. I said, nothing will happen, you know, nothing will happen, you know, like you do to them. Well, you sign it and I'll post it. So that's what happened.
I mean, what about this business about being the sort of mathematical genius? I mean, put it in perspective.
Yeah, no, I'm good at sums and I'm very good at the countdown game. But I am not a mathematical genius. And I say this to everyone, but the papers still say, oh, mathematical genius. But, I mean, you know, there are proper mathematicians who have, you know, professors of mathematics, for instance, who are proper mathematicians. I am not a proper mathematician, but I love sums.
But did it make it easy? It's a gift, isn't it? I mean, you found it very easy.
I did find it easy, and I did a lot of maths at university, although that was part of an engineering course that I did at Cambridge.
Right.
But yeah, I love it. I love it. I treat it like a game, really, and I always have since I was probably about 4 years old.
I mean, the background you came from was an unlikely one to produce somebody who's got to where you are now. I saw that this is your life, and all those people used to leave you pies at the bottom of your garden so your family could go and eat. I mean, your dad left your...
Well, we could have chips as well. I
Well,
mean,
but it's a very poor background, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. My mum had a very hard time because she and my father split up when I was 3 weeks old, and I have an older brother and sister. So she brought the three of us up by herself. And in the 1960s, that was even harder as a single parent than it is now. And we're a Catholic family, and you know, being divorced was not particularly then something that you wanted to do, being a Catholic, and obviously not still now.
And you went to a Catholic school
Went
as
to
well?
a Catholic school.
So you get in the neck there, would you?
Well, there were only, as I remember, 2 families in the school who had divorced parents. So
Yes.
I'm sure there are many more now, but
Yes.
not in those days. And she had it tough. I didn't have it tough because I knew nothing better. We had a lovely life. We were very, very happy. But my mum had it hard. And she always says, actually, now, she said, you know, if she had a choice, she would say, have 2 parents there. She says it now. She says it to me often.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she's been reconciled, of course, as is your brother and your sister with your father.
Yeah.
But you haven't.
No, I haven't. No,
No.
I don't really talk about that actually.
But,
I don't talk about it because it could upset him, and you know, I don't feel any malice towards him. He's just never been a part of my life. I'm 38 years old now, so
You just don't want to be bothered with that at all.
well, it's not. You know, it's not. It's very difficult, really. People think it might, you know, it might be strange not to want to.
It's an adult choice that you
just
make.
something-
I find it
it's just something that,
interesting.
you know.
I mean, you've never
don't
known him.
No.
It's as if he never existed.
Well, I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose so. But I wouldn't want to upset him
No.
in any way.
No, and I can see you don't like me asking you questions about
I
it.
don't really know
well,
because
I'm not going
it's,
to
you
anymore
know,
then.
no.
All right. The other thing that was interesting was that when you went to, I mean, education was your way out. I mean, that's what
It
gave
was,
you the key.
yes, absolutely.
It
And
unlocked
for
all
all of
the
our
doors
family,
for you.
actually.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, again, of course, again, it's fascinating reading about you. When you came back from university with your degree,
Yeah.
you and your mum were homeless.
Third-class degree.
Your third-class degree, yes. You must have had a good time at university, Carol.
Well, that's the excuse, I
It
suppose.
is the
Yeah.
excuse. But you were homeless, weren't you?
Yes. Now, that was actually probably the hardest time because I'd graduated and I had a job, and in this job I was moving every 6 weeks from kind of one factory to the next for the same company. And my mum, by that point, had remarried and unfortunately split up with a stepfather. And I was 20 by this time when I graduated. And she was living in digs and I was living in digs. And we had to live literally out of the back of an old banger that I was driving at the time in kind of plastic bags, you know. And it was really odd because obviously as a young person you often live in kind of rented, you know, accommodation and so on. But when your parents are doing the same,
yes.
living in digs, she was sharing with two 20-something-year-olds, you know, like a student. It's really difficult. So we bought a house. I said to her, right, we should get a house, you know, and I've been up to Yorkshire, it's a very nice place, and she'd never been. And I'll organise it, I'll find the house, I'll organise a joint mortgage and we'll go and live up there. All right, darling, that's fine. If that make you happy, that's what I do. So that's what happened. And Yorkshire was, you know, lucky Leeds.
That was the sort of
lucky
turning
Leeds,
point.
yeah.
She's clearly a remarkable woman, your mother.
She is a remarkable woman. She really is a very special woman. And she lives with us now.
Yes, I know that. Now,
yeah.
I was going to ask you about that because, I mean, now you are this housewife superstar, like Dawn. What? And this is it's a housewife superstar. Now, what interests me is this thing, because I know that when Mary, my wife, went out to work in television, I mean,
Yeah.
she'd been a teacher, but then she went into
Yeah.
television, that she had a good time, but all the time she felt guilty.
About having children
Yes,
at home.
and it's a thing that men never have to face, isn't it? I mean, I
don't think men think about it.
No, they
do
don't think
I
about it.
always think
better
it's
tell you.
very odd when you get asked that question, how do you juggle a career with children? Nobody ever asks Lenny that question.
No, of
And in
course
fact,
not.
he does 50% of it.
Does
So,
he?
you know, absolutely,
Well, that's the
yes.
answer then. And so you feel no guilt at all because
No, well, I
shared
think if you're going to go back to work, there's no point in feeling guilt. You know,
No, you can't
as
have
long
it
as
both
you
ways.
make
You
sure
make
they're
it-
looked after.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm very happy, obviously, because, you know, I couldn't trust anybody more than I do my mum.
Yes.
And children are very happy. We're all very happy, so, you know, it works for us. And actually, it's almost an old-fashioned way of doing it, because that's what used to happen.
Yes.
Was that, you know, it's the extended family, when people all lived in the same street, and you go back to your Auntie Jessie's or whoever after school.
Yes.
And that was perfectly normal then.
Yes.
You know, if your mum was out at work. So.
Now, people again looking at the two of you, I mean, would see you. I mean, you would hate this description, I'm sure, but you are role models to a lot of kids out there. What are you going to that for? I mean, you are.
Too much responsibility.
Well, it's not a bit, but it's.
No, it means you can't misbehave.
But it strikes me nowadays the best role models, the most popular ones, are the ones who do misbehave.
misbehave,
yeah,
but-
maybe,
yeah.
yeah.
But I know, just wondered. I mean, if you actually see yourself as that and actually do anything positive toward furthering that, in a sense.
Well, I do feel, in a sense, you know, because I do these sums on television, and obviously my background is in, well, engineering technology,
Yes.
and it is my passion, that there is an opportunity, because of the things that I do on television, to promote certain things that possibly wouldn't otherwise be promoted.
Like what?
Well, education per se, the use of technology, particularly computers in education, and also, you know, mathematics generally, because I think, you know, number work is something that's of growing importance. And I know everybody's going to go, oh, no, she's not going to talk about numbers. Not talk about numbers. But, you know, we use far more numbers in our lives now. Everybody has credit cards and mortgages and bank accounts and self-assessment for tax and VAT and national insurance, much more so than 30 or 40 years ago.
Yes.
And yet the skills in being able to juggle those numbers competently is actually declining.
But I mean, how do you go about this? I mean, you see, the problem with maths, as far as I'm concerned,
Is everyone goes, oh.
it's boring. Maths are boring, and I mean, I went to my entire
Well,
education.
you haven't lived if you think that.
Well, I do. You see, I mean, I read something that you said, where you said something wonderfully outrageous, which I want you to repeat on this program. So tell me about your view about reading Shakespeare or learning how to do maths. Now, go on. Tell me what you said.
Well, reading Shakespeare, I mean, you can do that when you're older, can't you? Like,
No,
learning
what-
Shakespeare is dull. Reading
Read-
Shakespeare is dull.
It's done. There you are.
To would be gapped to the bit. And you can't understand a flipping word they say. And it's boring. It's boring.
What, more boring than doing maths?
It is. No, you don't do maths. You don't just sit there and go, oh, I must get an exercise book and do maths. It's kind of, it brings all this other stuff with it.
Why can't we do both?
Yes.
Well, you can do both.
Oh, good.
Yes, exactly.
Can you do long division, by the way?
I can do long
Because,
division.
you know, I really can't. Jennifer and I once spent a whole
And
afternoon...
she's got a production company.
We spent a whole afternoon trying to do long division and we
I'll
realised we
teach you
just didn't
later.
know. Will
I
you?
won't do it now.
Carol
Mike, I
Vorderman's
promise
going
I
to
won't.
teach me how to do long
You've
division. I've died
got
and
to
gone
know
to
your times
heaven.
tables.
I do know my times tables,
Oh,
nearly,
that's
very
But you-
nearly. I use Smarties as the counting.
You got Smarties in your dressing room,
I
haven't
certainly
you?
have, yeah.
Smarties in her dressing.
Probably got a calculator of you in yours.
A chocolate calculator.
Yes, work out £5 million quid.
What are we talking about? I know, we're talking...
Are your kids any good at maths?
They will be.
Well,
You know, I'm trying to say
water.
Better be, yes.
My husband's better than I am.
Is he?
Well, my husband tells better jokes than me. My daughter can't do maths at all, but she can tell jokes.
But she'll do long
Yeah.
division by the time
She
we
will,
finish.
certainly will.
All right. Well, how many programmes you got coming up of different varieties?
Well, Countdown carries on, obviously.
And then?
And another one on BBC One called Dream House, which is about building the house of the future. Watch it, Michael. You learn a lot about computers. I know how much you like computers.
No, I still use a typewriter. I mean, they've only just moved on to that, for God's
Have
sake.
you? You don't even have
No,
that, do you?
I've got a pencil. I think you're modern.
Just one final thing. I
Yeah.
got something today which was handed to me about a recent poll. Did you see this one about men over 35 who were asked which one they'd most like to spend Millennium Night with?
Yeah.
You won it, Carol. And it's unfair. It's fixed. It's fixed. Without doubt.
You really depress me now.
You'll be Rear of the Year next
Oh,
year.
yes. Several of them.
Carol Vorderman, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Now, my final guest has lived the classic rags to riches showbiz story. She's the girl from Watford who became a Spice Girl, the former office cleaner who became a superstar. She was the fearless one. She didn't just dance with the Prince of Wales, she pinched his bum. Last year, she walked away from the Spice Girls. Why? Well, let's ask her. Welcome, please, Geri Halliwell.
Oh, what an evening, eh?
Very good, isn't it?
It's like group therapy. God. My name's Geri Halliwell and I left a band.
Why do you leave the band?
Do you know what? I knew you were going to ask me that question.
Well, you're bound to
And
know I'd ask you that
yesterday
question.
I was sitting in my car and I was thinking, why? And because I want to be as truthful as possible. And if I'm truthful bluntly with myself, which is most importantly, there's a few things you've got to bear in mind. One, it was 8 months ago, and it's still quite tender in my heart. And so I don't actually know the full reasons. There's probably lots. And it's the only way I can describe it. I'll tell you, what I can tell you is the events, and you, Dr. Parker, you tell me, and give me a cure.
I don't know about that, but...
Well, you know, I've got a bit of a history, as you know, we can cover, which, you know, makes me who I am. Maybe that can explain it. But what I can say, you know, the Spice Girls to me was like a marriage. It was a marriage where I fell in love completely, passionately. I needed it. You know, my father had died 6 months beforehand, so I was very militant, I was bossy, you know, I was adamant this was going to fill a massive void in me. And so the Spice Girls and I, we had this whirlwind romance. And, you know, what can I say, like 1 in 3 marriages these days, and we were babies when we started. I was the eldest, I was 22. Under the, you know, pressures of work schedules, you know, that marriage, it broke up. You know, it imploded like, you know, I have to say, I'm absolutely gutted it did. But, you know, what can I say it did? I would have liked it to come to go on.
Yes.
But I'm always a very instinctive person, and something told me that I had to leave.
Yes. You see, I'm more interested in where you came from than
Yeah.
where you were with the Spice Girls. Although that's fascinating. Because I mean, when we were talking to Carol there about background, I mean, you were really poor, weren't you? I mean, poor.
I was Fleabag jumble cell kid, yeah.
You were?
Jumble cell knickers,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean,
Which wasn't good.
no. I mean, I mean, describe to me what it was like. I mean, what kind of a kid were you? I mean, what sort of a child? What was the
Well,
circumstances about?
Well, my father didn't work from the day I was born, put it that way. But he was, on one hand, he was he was a great man. He was well-read, very political. He was a dreamer, very into literature, and he gave me all of that, which I'm very grateful for. And on the other hand, my mother, she's Spanish, very determined, and she was always working. She was my role model. She, example that I had. So I had a real mixture. I was the baby. So I was fueled with confidence on one hand, but then I did feel very different from everybody else. Everyone else had lots more material things than I ever did. So sometimes I felt inadequate, and I was very small for my age. So I kind of put all escapism into movies, into Elvis, into music. That was my escapism, basically.
And you wanted to be who? And what was the ambition when you were growing up? What was the dream? You couldn't have an ambition coming from where you came from, that sense.
I think I'm a product of media. Be rich and famous. That is, if you're famous, suddenly the golden doors open and you're going to be happy, and that's it. So I was chasing this, obviously, something that's, doesn't really exist, but, that's what was my ticket. I was basically chasing a lottery ticket that I could control. Everyone, buys a ticket every Wednesday, don't they? Yeah. I was just chasing mine. Yeah. That's all.
You worked in a variety of jobs, and you worked in a variety of jobs at the same time, didn't you?
Yes.
How many jobs did you have in 1 week?
Well, I counted it all in all the other day, and it's about 40 different kind of jobs. But before I met the Spice Girls, I was trying to put a demo tape together, which cost £300. And I was trying to be the new Betty Boo. And anyway, so I had 6 jobs a week. I had 2 cleaning jobs, behind a bar, aerobics, selling knocked-off tag watches. You name it, I was an artful dodger. I'm a survivalist. And I was doing what I could till I got there, basically.
So you just had 6 different jobs?
Oh, yeah, totally. But I was on a mission.
And what about the time you had when you went to Turkey as a game show host?
Oh, yeah, I had to learn that fridge.
Well, I mean...
But it was brilliant. I was, you've got to understand, I left home when I was 16 years old, like Dick Whittington. And when I was about 18, I decided to go back to college. I believe in education, absolutely. I think it's brilliant. And I went back with a different attitude. And I studied English, finance, marketing, and I was there because I wanted to be there. But I had to support myself. So I went out there, during the mornings I was studying, and then I had to pay, my way. So I had to do things like, I was a topless model, and it was called glamour modelling, but it's not glamorous. And I was the game show hostess in Turkey at the weekend.
Well, tell us about both those things, but tell us about the game show hostess first of all. Did you learn how to speak Turkish?
Well, I did have to say the odd word, and basically what I used to do was write it on my arm, then go, "Ses bakalom," or something like, I didn't even know what I was saying, basically. And there was 3 doors, and people would, win a booby prize or the car, and they had to choose it, and you had to stand there, and sometimes it was a chicken or a tyre. But the funny thing was, they used to put me up in this hotel, and I used to think it was fantastic. I was earning a couple of £100 pounds. I thought it was brilliant at the time.
And the topless modelling too, I mean, that would always come back to haunt you, won't it?
It certainly came back to haunt me, yeah, totally. It was something I did. It wasn't something that I really wanted to do. It paid, for me, it was, good money, but it isn't really. And I didn't do fantastic. That's it. I mean, the irony of it all, these photographers, they've made a fortune out of it now. I've made Playboy.
But they sold the pictures to Playboy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I mean, you had no means of either stopping that or making some money out of it.
Yeah, funny thing was, they'd want you to, to get your top off and, show you bottom, and then I would be trying to get them at the end of it to do some pictures for my book and do something really arty. But, you know, I don't know what I was doing.
They're not really after that, are they?
No, they're not after
Well,
that.
you're not the only one.
But to be honest, it was boring. I found it very, very dull.
Was it?
In the end, standing there with a window open to keep your nipples firm was not good.
Is that what they do?
Yeah, they do. They do.
Fix the trade,
Yeah.
I do.
Very handy. Very handy. You never know. Actually, maybe you could do when you're...
The thing about... No, not
Yeah.
me, love. No, no.
The older man.
I
I told you, Parky, I find you very
Oh,
nice.
thank you, darling.
I was once Spunk of the Month in Australia.
Oh, really?
But,
Sorry, spunk of the month.
It's that Northern charm.
No, that's...
It's that Northern charm.
Spunk has a different meaning in Australia than it does here.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Actually, you have got 3 children, haven't you?
I have
Very
got 3.
fertile.
I have got 3. That's it. Well, we get the conversation. I know. I was only going to make a remark that in fact that the only 2 people here among the 4 of us who've not taken their clothes off are actually Carol and myself, because Dawn's done it too. She posted her Esquire, didn't you?
I did, yes,
You did?
I did.
Yeah.
Did you stand by the windows with the wind coming?
No,
in?
no, oh, permanently erect.
Very liberating. Very liberating.
Right, so you got all this, you got 300 quid to make a demo disc.
Uh-huh.
Right, and then along come the Spice Girls.
Yes.
Is that how it happened?
You know, there was an audition, and the funny thing was, I had another manager at the time, and you know, quite a good one. And I thought, yeah, I'm carving this career, just starting it out. And then I met the other girls, but they had shit management. And I thought, what do I do? Do I go with this guy that's a good manager, or do I go with the girls, which I thought were fantastic? You know, I fell madly in love with them, with, you know, not so good management. And I remember asking someone into the record business, I said, what do you think I should do? He goes, girl band? Nah, never make it. And I thought, that's reverse psychology on me, thank you, I'll go with the band.
Really?
You know, you're wrong, absolutely,
But-
it's very instinctive.
But you could have no idea that it would have taken off as the way it did take off.
No, you can.
No.
I think, you know, we're very focused, and you know, we had good gut instinct that it was going to work, really, and it was, you know, it was a tight thing together.
But it changed. It must have changed your lives totally. And,
Oh,
what interests me is you know, the manner in which it changed you. I mean, how did it change you? You went from this one moment, all of a sudden, you're this girl from Watford, this group
Yeah.
of wannabes, and the next thing, you're this extraordinary phenomena. I mean, it's all over the world.
But
And
because
you're
it's-
like doll. I bought you 3 times for my grandchildren,
Did you?
dolls. You know.
Did you play with them?
Certainly.
Good.
But no, but I mean, it's been a remarkable story.
It has, but the thing is, it's so fast. You've got to understand, really, we were only in the public eye 2 years, but I mean, that's the state of consumerism. It's so fast, you know, and so you don't have time to digest it.
You don't.
You really don't.
It's a blur, is it, with you?
It is really. One minute I was, you know, pinching Prince Charles's arse, and the next minute, you know, I was on a boat in Cannes. You know, I was sitting in front of the telly the other day, and suddenly I thought, oh my God, I pinched Prince Charles's bum. I can't believe I done that. I have
Is
it
it what,
wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, I have to say. And, you know, actually, one thing I would like to say is, for those, you know, Geri Halliwell is here, but Ginger is not dead. She's still alive, and she does come to surface now and again, and she will be back.
But on the Prince Charles theme, on the pause for play. On the Prince Charles theme, I mean
Yeah.
that was the first time. By way of introduction, you pinched his backside.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you actually went and you sang at his birthday.
Yes, and I had a big learning experience from that. If anyone is suffering from constipation, sing to Prince Charles, because I went 11 times in that big dress. Not good, I have to say. What I was thinking, I was thinking, imagine if I fell over. What would I do? What would I do? So I came to this plan that if I did fall over, I was just going to lie there and pretend to be dead. Cart me off and never wake up. So, but I've had one hell of a year. It's been a disaster adventure movie. Did I tell you about my drowning in Uganda?
Well,
I was there with Comic Relief, and I was whitewater rafting, and I fell in the water in the rapids, got sucked under for 20 seconds, and I'm telling you, and then the boat turned over and was smacking on top of my head, and it was like a Poseidon
Poseidon.
adventure, yeah, and I was like Shelley Winters, and someone tried to save me, and I went, help me, help me. It was just like, so there was that, and then from that I went to going to the United Nations, and that was meant to be an educational visit, and suddenly it said, no, you've got to speak to World Press. And I was like, oh my God. And
What do you have to talk about to them?
well, basically, it was about contraception.
All right.
And what contraception are you using, Dr. Parky? No, it's about... I won't put you on the spot.
You're too young to have read Cosmopolitan 26 years ago.
Okay, I'll let you off.
Using the pig's bladder method.
Talk something now.
So no, basically that, you know, I'm bringing awareness to plights of women in third world countries that are denied basic rights. I mean, there's facts like 600,000 women die every year giving birth, which is ridiculous. We wouldn't put up with it in this country. And, you know, I think I have a duty to make people aware of that. I'm meant to be the advocate of girl power. Well, you know, I have to take it one step further. This is the empowerment of women.
Does it mean anything, girl power, though?
Oh, totally.
Does it? I mean, did it change anything?
I put my hand on my heart and I believed in
You
it.
put your hand on your mic there, actually. Cool. Be still my beating heart.
Yes, it is.
But I mean, is it, or is it just a phrase? I mean, does it work, or what? I mean,
Well, it worked for me. I am living proof that if you put your mind to something and you feel strong, then you can achieve anything. Sometimes you've just got to go for it and believe. The power of the mind is everything. It doesn't have to be girl power. It's people power. It's strength within here. It's believing in yourself. It's about self-esteem. And let's have, you know, holding hands with therapy now. Actually, I've got a picture. I've got an exclusive
Go on,
for
show me,
everybody.
show
This
me.
is your
What's this?
late Christmas present.
What is it?
Well,
Yeah.
after my hectic year, I went to New York to kind of escape a little bit, do a bit of shopping. But no, I was lying 8:30 in my bed in my nice flannelette pyjamas, and there is a bomb scare in my hotel, and they say, madam, you have to get out of the hotel. So I'm standing in New York
isn't this
in my flannelette pyjamas. So everyone can see. I don't know if you can see that.
Can we
So
see that?
that's an exclusive the paparazzi did not get, see? Clearly I was initiative bringing my camera with me. I might go into journalism.
My mum always used to make me take
So you can
fire
have that.
escape pyjamas to university.
Fire
have
escape
it.
Fire
pyjamas.
escape pyjamas, take a very lacy little green number just in case for that.
Yeah.
I've heard of
job I wasn't
clean
going-
underpants in case you get knocked
Yeah.
down, but
There you have it.
that's
And that's especially for you.
I'm more touched than I can tell you, and well, thanks, Dennis.
You're welcome.
Very nice indeed.
Thoughtful present.
You are a thoughtful person, actually. Now, let's talk about the other thing too. You were very, very outspoken on the business of the breast cancer campaign too, weren't you?
Totally.
I think that was probably the most inspirational thing that you
Yeah.
did, in a sense.
Totally.
What were the circumstances of you getting involved in that? I mean, you had a scare yourself when you were...
Yes,
when
I
you were-
was, when I was 18 years old, and I was busy being a club dancer, and I had to pay my rent. I had a lump in my breast, and I thought, oh, got to get rid of this. I knew that, you know, went to see the doctor, and it got sorted, bingo, and I didn't think about it, you know. And then the Sun newspaper, how many years later, last year, asked, they discovered it and decided to run the story. At that time, my accountant gave me this book by Ruth Picardy,
Yes.
Before I Say Goodbye, and I swear to you, I read this book and I cried my eyes out,
wonderful book.
and it made me realise how this is absolutely awful, the humility that she wrote the book as well. You know, she had 2 kids, it was just, and I just was so, you know, when something really touches you, and I thought, my God, I have an absolute duty to do something about this. You see, my philosophy is, you know, we all blame society, but we are society. We have the power, you and I, to make a difference. And I have, in a bigger way than most. I'm famous, so I can speak up about that, really. So if one person, you know, watching this, they've just said that, oh, then that's done something good. So I feel that life is just so much take. We've got to give back a little bit more.
But you've pursued this, whatever it is you've been on the run ever since you were born, in a sense, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've been chasing after something or other.
Yeah, I was always looking for something to make me feel better, and I tell you what, this certainly enriches my soul. It really does.
The work that you're doing with the charity.
Oh yeah, totally.
But you said something interesting when you were talking about being a Spice Girl. You said you got to be this famous, and you found fame, but then it wasn't what you thought it might be.
No.
So I mean, so what was it? I mean, where did it fall short?
you know, I'd like to say I don't discredit it, you know, what we achieved together. You know, I thank the Spice Girls and all the fans. Without them, I would not be sitting here, so I'm truly grateful. However, it was a massive learning experience for me. You know, spiritually, mentally, my mind grew 100 years, you know, in so many ways. And I thought that was going to give me everything, and it's great. It does satisfy a piece of me, and I love it. But then there is more to life than that. Of course, and it's natural that you're going to grow and want to find more fulfilling things as well as
right.
that.
Okay. I mean, so basically it didn't fulfill you. But what's interesting then is to look at the aspect probably of that fame that didn't fulfill you. I mean, were there moments when you were this famous person, the Spice Girl and that sort of thing, where you actually thought, this is not really what I want at all?
I've always wanted it, and I still want
No.
it. I love it, but there was, you know, the day that I left the Spice Girls, and I wasn't planning to leave on that day. It made me check out my principles. Actually, I was meant to be in this studio doing the National Lottery, and the schedule wouldn't permit me to do a breast cancer interview. And I thought, hold on a minute, what are your principles? So I had to question myself. What am I about? Where's your integrity? You know?
So you did a breast cancer interview rather than...
Well, you know, things got very complicated,
Yeah,
but you know, but that is the reason why I left on that day.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying that is the reason why I left the Spice Girls. There was never a good day to leave. That's the reason. I was going to leave in September, you know, and the girls knew that. I'd pre-warned them.
So it just brought it forward a bit.
But it brought forward. That's all. But this is, you know, it's one of those things. This was my personal decision, not to do with any of the girls, really. It was just something that I had to do. Spiritually, mentally, for my own growth, I really did. I felt like a hypocrite if I stayed. You know, I'm meant to be, you know, stand for girl power. Well, you know, it's not just about singing songs. It really isn't. So I had to do it.
Okay.
But
now,
I will be singing some songs soon.
well, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I will.
My next question was to be that.
Will there? I beat you to it.
I know you did. so you're working on a record on an album?
Well, this year I put all my, you know, it's been a roller coaster of emotion. I thought I'm going to do something constructive, and I poured it all into the lyrics for my album. So just before Christmas, I sketched all the songs, and I'm mastering them now. So what you're going to have is this album that's totally schizophrenic, mood swings, so every woman in Britain will identify with it. You know, and I expect you to be dancing. There's some songs that you can dance around in your underpants to, you know, and have good sex to, possibly. But as I am UN ambassador, you have to wear a condom. All right?
Can I borrow your Winstead pyjamas?
You can indeed. They are just, you know, total turn on.
Well, I've got no doubt you'll succeed.
Oh, you never know. I might fall flat on my face, but you've got
Well,
to
you know,
try.
I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, the three of you have achieved an awful lot in your lives. And I mean, what is a single factor? Is it this curiosity and ambition? I mean, with you and Carol, it obviously is, but with you, Dawn, I mean, you seem to have no real ambition at all toward doing what you're doing now.
No, it's true.
That's right, terrible, actually, calamity, really.
Yeah, but I certainly wasn't hell-bent on any of it, I have to say. It was sort of by mistake.
Yeah, that's right.
But it does
I
feel very
landed into
natural,
it by
so-
mistake, but once you're in...
Oh, but you were driven as well, weren't you? You'd be...
Well, driven into something, but
Yes.
Not television.
Yes.
But then once I was in there, I thought, well, you know,
It's better than working, you thought, this.
Oh, well, I did.
It is. Don't tell anybody, or else they'll all want the job.
Yeah. And I did fall immediately in love with Richard Whiteley, of course.
Well,
that's
Who
it.
is a sex god?
Oh,
just
hello,
in case.
Richard. I've got to say to you.
he is irresistible, I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
I
Nice
think
of
I
you.
could resist him.
Could you?
Yeah.
Why do you think?
The other thing, I mean, the one thing you have in common, actually, is that you all wanted to be members of a girl band, didn't you?
I've got a brilliant idea.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful,
Not
wouldn't it?
strike
Yes.
any song up.
And you can be backing singer.
I could be back in. I want to be the
Or a
manager.
sexy little dancer at the front.
Yes. What was yours called?
Oh, well, we did the Sugar Lumps.
Sugar
yeah,
Lump-
these
the
guys,
Sugar
but
Lumps,
that was
that's
for
right.
comic relief, which is ordinarily a very safe activity.
Yeah.
I hasten to add. We don't drown everybody.
No.
But it was worth it. It made me grow. So every time I'm nervous, I say, at least I'm not drowning in Uganda.
Okay, well, look, we're at the end, sadly, of our...
Oh, before we go,
Yes, go on.
you promised something. You said that,
Go on.
and you have to stick to your word, that, you know, when you retire, you said that I could have your job, so I just wanted
I didn't
to...
say...
You did. And you said that I would be You would be my first interview, so can we get a question in?
Hey,
How was
you
it for
said
you?
that to me too.
Hey, Parky.
What's your game, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, Spunky.
Dr. Parky.
I'm going before it gets any worse.
Women on again.
I think we'll be the judge of whether you're spunk or the monkey.
In the bar later.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Halliwell. Oh, dear. My thanks to Geri Halliwell, Carl Vorderman and Dawn French. Next Friday, I'm joined by Lee Evans, Robert Lindsay and Stephen Fry. Until then, from all of us here, very good night. Good night.
Next tonight, Goldie Hawn rather reluctantly joins Mel Gibson on the run in Bird on a Wire here on BBC One.